Probably shouldn't have said that out loud, but it was good. We did. From our own numbers, so that's not public comment. So nobody missed it. So, guess first is the minutes. Has anyone read and approved the minutes?
Okay, motion to approve the May 16th meeting minutes.
Second the motion.
Any opposition? And then, I was supposed to take public comment, right?
Yes, ma'am, and then we have Brian.
I can for public comment.
Brian first? Oh,
Oh,
sorry.
Can I
Hi.
make a motion to amend the agenda to add Bryna Hefner's presentation of the ADA proclamation?
I second that.
All right.
Awesome. What is this?
Oh, sorry, Doris. We are amending the agenda so that it reflects that Brian Hefner is here to read our ADA proclamation.
So it was great this afternoon to have Doris and Justin, along with some other disability advocates to join in the county boardroom as they offered a proclamation for this year's Americans with Disabilities Act. Since you're all meeting tonight, I thought it would be good for me to come and issue it here again to the DAC, and I brought copies, and we have soft copies as well that I can send out. So Arlington County, Virginia proclamation, Americans with Disabilities Act Awareness Day. Whereas the Americans with Disabilities Act was passed on July 26, 1990 to ensure the civil rights of citizens with disabilities. And whereas July 26, 2023 marked the 33rd anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act. And whereas this legislation established a clear and comprehensive national mandate for the elimination of discrimination against individuals with disabilities, and whereas 42.5 million Americans and 7.1% of Arlington residents report having one or more disabilities, and whereas the Americans with Disabilities Act has expanded opportunities for Americans with disabilities by reducing barriers, changing perceptions, and increasing full participation in community life. And whereas individuals with disabilities can live, work, learn, and play across our community, and we also realize that the full promise of the Americans with Disabilities Act will only be reached if we continue our efforts to fully implement the Act. And whereas on the anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act, Arlington County recognized the progress that has been made by reaffirming the principles of equality and inclusion and recommitting our efforts to reach full ADA compliance. Now, therefore, on behalf of Christian Dorsey, Chair of the County Board, declare July 26, 2023 as the Americans with Disabilities Act Awareness Day and encourage Arlington County residents to celebrate this anniversary of the signing of the ADA. So happy birthday, ADA. In the spirit of Michael Winter, who was a longtime member of this commission, he loved saying happy birthday, ADA. Doris knew Michael well. He was very active in Arlington. And so I share this with you, a copy. And Doris, I have already sent you a soft copy. Hopefully you got it on your email, but let me know.
But Doris, you should know it's quite pretty. It's got a seal on it and a different color paper to make it look yellowish orange paper.
Anyways, if you want to take one back to the center, and I did email it to both.
We have.
I can see if I can find some folder. I'll go. Anyways, thank you guys for having me. Thanks for all you do. I mean, this commission is amazing. Those of you who have known me for a long time know that I'm very appreciative of the work. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And seriously, let's follow up
Okay.
on the specifics, because I think that will be the most helpful.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I'm not, I'm not
No, we
trying to
definitely-
impugn anybody.
No, we definitely need to figure out who the right people are, so.
Yeah.
All right, guys, we'll see you at the Brittany.
Yeah.
We're neighbors. We live in the same building. I love it.
You know what?
Good to see you.
So if I have anything to do about it, I'm gonna crave it, and hopefully right next to that photo that we have in our entry of signing of the ADA.
Oh, Justin Dart and
And,
President Bush.
and Evan Kemp.
Oh, yeah.
And the lady, Perino, who was, a deaf lady and was chair of the NCD.
If you'll indulge me just a few more minutes, Elizabeth, I'm curious. Justin, how old were you when the ADA was passed? Were you born yet?
I was not even born. I was not even like my dad's age when I was born. Like at that time, I was born in '98.
Okay. And what about you?
97.
97?
Yeah.
So you guys have, and what about you?
79.
So you guys have really grown up with, the Americans with Disabilities Act. Doris did not grow up with the Americans with Disabilities Act. Elizabeth, you did not either.
I was born right after the IDEA, which was in
73, 74,
68.
68?
Yeah.
Oh, 504 was in 73.
Well, in 73 was called Education for the Handicapped.
Oh, right.
But that, was really important. And I think that each generation, gets to, well, I have a story. I'm so glad you brought that up. I went to Portugal for 2 weeks.
Oh, I'm going. Yes. Tell
Yeah.
me.
And I had thought about it. I went with my in-laws' whole family, and we made sure that the B&Bs were quote unquote accessible. I knew there'd be stairs and stuff. But I just could not believe, I had read, and you can go on these websites like wheelchair travel and traveling with a wheelchair, and you get wonderful blogs from people. And one of them had said, in Portugal, when they call something accessible, they mean that you'll use a manual chair and have a caretaker with you. And I just believed it, because I've been to European places before, but I had never been to a place so inaccessible. I mean, I actually didn't rent a scooter because of what that person had said, but we rented a manual chair. And I had 6 people who had said, oh, they'll help push me around. Well, you would see something that would say accessible route. And the accessible route would have like a step in the middle of the sidewalk for no reason whatsoever, but one that a wheelchair could clearly not go over on its own. You would see signs that say accessible bathroom. And I went into several of them, and all of them had plenty of space by the toilet, but no grab bars. I mean, it was just a totally different world when you could tell they were supposedly making their world accessible, but it was not with the spirit of independence.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
so it's a lesson about, we don't all define it the same way,
Mm-hmm.
right?
But we were the first. We were the first in the world
Yeah.
to have a civil rights standards for accessibility, and probably right now for the future, one of the advocacy things that we really need to get together on, and I know my friend and yours, Martha Bristow, who was the executive director and founder of Access Living, a Center for Independent Living in Chicago. And she and Judy Heumann worked really hard for the UN convention, and our beloved nation has not signed it.
Yeah, that's really frustrating.
It's not been confirmed by the Senate, and it's disgusting. They should do it at least by 2025 or something.
It's a good goal, I think, by 2025 would be the 45th anniversary of the ADA. So, is that right? No. 1990, so what would that be, 35, 35th anniversary?
Yeah.
Anyways.
But one of the things that people don't tell also is that the Obama administration came forward and said that the ADA applies to website and information resources. To prove it, they pushed through the Telecommunications Act of 2010, and maybe at some point we as a disability community will recognize that as unfinished section of the ADA.
I'm glad you said unfinished because there was already a section in the ADA that talked about communication.
There was, there was a Telecommunications Act of 1996 that required the hardware that has telecommunications hardware and some of the devices, electronics that were coming along to be accessible and compatible, but not on the blindness side of the issue. For persons with hearing impairments, and even so, it didn't take into account web-based products because they didn't even need basics and they were rudimentary. So
You might be thinking, Elizabeth, of, I mean, the Rehab Act, there's a section 508 that, also applies to some of that in terms of
But
web-based stuff,
it's-
not
yeah.
comprehensively.
it's like the accessibility requirements in 504,
Yeah.
which were pretty rudimentary and weak.
Well, I stand corrected. Thanks. I'm not.
Well, anyways, thank you guys again, and I'll get you a folder and have a great meeting.
Thank you.
Okay, so,
Yay, Brian.
wait. Um, What's next on our agenda?
Commissioner Justin wanted to talk about the rescheduling of board member Matt's visit and talk about options.
Yeah, so. Give me a second. I think we should be rescheduling that to come in to our meetings for sometime in the coming weeks or the coming months, but also I think, and this is common, or this is what I have always experienced with a lot of public servant. Would public servant be a correct term for a council member?
Sure.
Or would politician,
Elected official.
You could say public servant. I think it reminds us here for us.
right? So I think a lot of our elected officials don't fully understand what it's like to be in a wheelchair or have any disability in general. So I think maybe potentially looking at the possibility of getting Matt to do a walk around or roll around, potentially giving him some experience, in a wheelchair would help him better understand the urgency behind the needs of accessibility. Especially knowing that knowing that there are still sidewalks in Arlington that are in bad conditions, and also knowing that our own government building are our
Affordable housing buildings.
affordable housing are still not up to code, as well as some of the Arlington County facilities, including this very building, does not have many accessible options to it. I think potentially getting Matt or doing a roll around with Matt around Arlington and around the government building would help him understand how bad it is as a wheelchair user. Or it's not trying to word it properly, but how difficult it can be to be physically disabled in Arlington. Is that the best way to say it?
Makes sense to me, yeah.
Yeah, oh, sorry, go ahead.
All I was going to say is that I think that it's important to recognize that things like a roll around where you have somebody who's normally able-bodied, trying a wheelchair gives some information, but it doesn't really show somebody what it's really like day in and day out.
Right.
So, you know, I'm not saying that's a terrible idea or anything like that. I'm just saying, you know, it gives some information, but it doesn't, you
Oh, and when
know,
I,
transfer the experience from one person to another.
when, I'm not gonna mention their name. But last year I did go out with a candidate, did a roll around with them. And when I did it, I was with them, and when I did the roll around, I put them through a few challenges that wheelchair users face alone. So I think for one, showing those challenges, what we go through as physically disabled people is key to a successful roll around, because you're physically pushing them to experience what it's like.
Right, or letting them know, here's something that you might struggle with that you might not have noticed until I asked you, you know, can you get over there? Or whatever, you know, the issue or question.
So one thing at Justin is, well, one thing I think would be helpful is if you could identify some sites that we would visit that Matt could interact with in the wheelchair. Just so we sort of have those set, and, you know, as a commission, it's like, yes, we believe that this is the best way and as close as possible as we can reproduce the experience, the lived experiences of people who use wheelchairs.
So
I was thinking, I mean, if you adopt that approach where we can mark out places to visit ahead of time, I would suggest we go, we contact Ann Barber, who used to be on the committee, who talked a lot about the bad status of the affordable housing there. Things like that the elevator, there was no push button and elevators didn't work and there was no laundry. It might be interesting to expand it beyond sidewalks in that way. And we could, when I've talked to other people, like the head of the pedestrian advisory committee, she said when she went on one of those, what was most impactful to her was trying to get into a restaurant and order food, like at a Starbucks. There was no push button, and it was hard to see over the counter. So, I mean, we could do things, expanding it beyond just sidewalks if you want. If you want to talk about that way.
I actually have an idea, and I'll introduce it. My thought is, why don't we start out in Boston quarters? Because there are examples in that area. One of the things I like about the Boston quarters area is that there is an adult changing station at the WL public pool, which I kind of like going to because it gives people an idea of what they look like. And from WL, taking the metro down to our government building and rolling around the area, because this area, sorry, I drooled. I'm so sorry. I thought Clarendon alone, or the courthouse area alone, has some really difficult obstacles to it as well. As you guys know, there's a lot of construction going on. So I think starting out in Boston, getting an idea of what an adult changing station looks like, and taking public transportation, because there is an art bus that goes from Boston all the way over here, could also help give Matt a clear idea of what it's like to be physically disabled and to take public transportation. So what,
Horace has a comment.
I just wanted to add, for the knowledge of the commission, that, actually, just before we, went after the grant and opened we had formed a coalition of citizens for disabilities that was part of the so, which was the first cross disability organization nationally. So, we had something like you're talking about, and it was something that a number of states were doing at the time called Barriers Awareness Day. And we copied what they were doing down in all because there were various modus operandi for doing an event like that. And what we did was have politicians, journalists, and people in the business community go out on their own routine for that particular day. We didn't want them to change what they were doing. And part of it was that the impact was stronger when they saw what they were trying to do in their schedule that day and why they couldn't do it.
Right.
Right.
I like that.
And then, and the also a key to the model was that they were accompanied by a person with the disability they were simulating and who could answer questions about how I make adjustments and what I do when I encounter this. And then a third person, which could be optional, but it was part of at the time, it was part of the best practice because the third person was somebody mainly who was able-bodied and could be there in case the elected official or whoever got in a situation where they needed somebody to jump in the way. So basically, they were keeping CAs. And then we came back. They went on their own schedule. Started with us in 8:30 or 9 in the morning. They went out on their own schedule. And they came back around 3 or 4 and we held a press conference. And we did press for it. And actually at the time, particularly print and broadcast were the major mediums. We were able to get in the style section in Washington Post.
Wow.
Yeah, and on some TV and local. So it's a thought, maybe it could be done just for this jurisdiction. In fact, we do it as a region.
Or if we could start preliminarily with Matt.
yeah,
And one thought I had about your approach, I agree that it's valuable to show Matt the changing stations. But we might be able to do that at another time.
right.
And one of the thoughts that I had was Ballston, especially Ballston corridor, is one of the newer construction areas. So it's going to be one of the more accessible places.
Right.
So
So,
really, we might want to have him go to places that haven't been renovated but are important. Again, we would show the accessible changing station at another time. But if we're taking the metro, we could basically choose any place, and it's often the neighborhood and the neighborhood streets that are in bad shape. Like if we went to wherever Ann is, and then divvied over to, where was it Suzette's, that she tries so hard to get a sidewalk, or even, I forgot who it was, but
I think it was her ramp.
right, and
Yeah.
then ramp, and then another person who tried hard and they did it on the wrong side of the street, or they did it wrong or something. I know near me on Wilson, it's almost impossible to ride in this on the sidewalk, so everybody rides in the street. But 4 years getting, working with folks to get a bicycle path so that I could ride in the street if I needed to, which is actually not what's supposed to happen on the bicycle path. But I'm saying, going into neighborhoods, and it's totally different from what Doris is posing, and we could still do that, or we could still just say to Matt, do all your activities for the day today and see what he says.
I can,
Yeah, oh, sorry, so, I like doing like, you know, the meeting with Matt, because the actual day for like National Barrier Awareness Day is May 6th.
Is what?
May 6th,
Huh, I didn't know they had a barrier awareness day.
yeah, so.
Oh, yeah, the month of May is actually used to be variance awareness.
Yeah. So maybe we can mark the May 6th date for that larger one to give us like enough time to plan and talk with county staff.
Yeah.
And pull together.
so for preliminary, let's start out with Matt. I think what we do is this. I'll take him out on a wall around in Arlington. We'll identify some spaces, some areas, or identify an area of Arlington that's not accessible. After that run-in, the next day, Matt goes to work in a wheelchair. And he has to physically experience what it's like. I'll be on standby if he needs any assistance or if he has any questions on how to handle a certain situation. And from there, we'll let him go about it as he sees fit. What do you guys think?
I like that.
I'm confused, because I think we started this out with Matt coming here.
Yeah, he was supposed to come here. We didn't
But
discuss
is-
why he couldn't
Is he
come.
coming,
Oh.
was he coming because he had concerns about this building? That's
Oh, no, he was invited. Can you explain why we invited Matt? Or what happened? Was he supposed to come today?
He was supposed to come to the last meeting to talk about the issues in this building. We didn't have quorum, so we weren't able to. And then the rescheduled date would be today, but he's currently across the room from us in the recess meeting.
Oh, that's
Um,
legitimate.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, but I'm confused. So he was coming about this building.
Yes, he was supposed to
Yeah.
come for this building.
And I think this, I am aware, because when I heard about that and just coming back in here for meetings, that there are issues with this building, but I believe, and the renovations they did. And I think that if that's what he's exploring,
Right.
we should stick to that to begin with and expand out. But the other suggestion I would have is that that just the kinds of things that you've been talking about sound a lot like you want to highlight pedestrian rights of way, right? And such. And if that is the case, I would stick to that as a topic for, in other words, for an event that you would put on and do it separately from buildings, or I don't mean this building, I mean separately from doing housing, whatever, you know what I'm saying? In other words, you could have one on pedestrian rights of way and transportation, one on commercial and public buildings, and one on housing, because I think that the other reason for keeping housing separate, in my view, is that the accessibility standards are different.
Right.
In teaching them, and in fact, in housing, they're less than, rather than, you know, they're not ADA covered by the ADA standard, now called ADA standard, ADA. Yeah, so,
Those are all good points. So what do we think about that? Just at this point in time, keeping it to, on the minutes,
I mean, I like the
On
walk
the-
around.
on the minutes, Courtney did a very nice recitation of all the issues that were identified in this building.
Mhm.
So, I mean, I don't know, but probably somebody at the last meeting said, I'll write a letter. But we almost don't even need to. We could just send our minutes and say, here's some of the issues we have for this building. But that would be going with Doris, saying, let's just keep it on that one topic. I know that Matt is meeting with some folks,
Mhm.
including myself, in a week or so to look at the accessible changing table. So we could have that at a different time. What do you guys think about what Doris said?
About what?
About your proposal that we stick to the issues in this building and then expand out?
Well, if that's what he's coming here to talk about, I think we need to hear it and then add our stuff, because he might coming with questions about things that he's encountered, but then we need to add to it.
Right.
So I think, here's what I would propose for Justin, because I know between Clarendon and Courthouse, thinking the sidewalk width and the state of the sidewalk is not best.
Right.
So maybe we start at Clarendon, work our way down, end here at the county office building, and then we explore all those issues.
Clarendon?
Yeah. Well, we start at
Clarendon
Clarendon.
in Metro,
Yeah.
walk down to Courthouse.
Mhm.
So we wouldn't even have to take the Metro, we wouldn't even have to take the Metro. I think that's really
That's
good,
not
because
in
that
our-
is a,
The Metro is not even in our.
Yeah, but so that would give him, allow him to experience what the corridor is like in the wheelchair.
But take art bus.
Yeah, that could be another thing. He could take an art bus halfway down. Um,
Are we talking about asking him to do this before the meeting in which he's going to meet with us?
We
Or are
could do that.
talking about
we could
this-
say, could you meet a couple of us at Clarendon to walk between Clarendon and Courthouse right before the meeting?
Yeah, we could do that.
And maybe we could ask him to go into one of the places and try to place an order,
mhm.
and I would pay for it. Bring cookies or something.
Yeah.
There's so many stores along there.
Like that Starbucks by the Clarendon Crossings.
Yeah, I don't know,
That little, it's a small.
Oh, you mean on the sidewalks here? Let me
Yeah.
do.
Oh, yeah, that.
No, let me say one thing. This courthouse plaza,
Mhm.
this is owned by JBG.
Mhm.
And so this came up because when the office was here,
Mhm.
they resurfaced the whole thing. It was worse.
Oh, yeah.
It was worse. And then they even supposedly resurfaced, as I recall, the Clarendon street side, but they didn't do such a great job at it, right? But, so yeah, showing that, but this brings up another
We
issue.
wouldn't actually be showing that with what we just proposed.
Well,
Because
is that what you're
it's a
picking
public-
up? Because I'm not sure what you're
No,
picking
you would
up.
start at the Clarendon Metro, right?
Well, I think,
Like sort of where, I don't know what's there now, everything's changing so much, but it was the chili place, and Hard Rock, Hard Times. You walk down that street that has like, 30 different shops, and then you just end up here.
Yeah.
Right,
And then we explore this building and then we roll into our regular scheduled DAC meeting
right,
as, you know, the recap and
right. You
here
wouldn't
for
be
what.
getting into any of the JBS property unless you wanted to do that as well.
So we're not going to get into specific policy details. This is more of a format to gather information and, you know, and then maybe an action item we can ask for Matt, you know, is that for him to work with staff and maybe we can invite someone from the planning staff to join us as well. Since that would probably be their purview unless Courtney knows of another staff member who would probably be more well suited for that. So this would just be more of an informational session than an actual like.
Are you gonna have him get in a chair?
Yeah, I'll,
Well,
Okay.
I mean, that's very complicated. Couldn't you just walk with us?
no,
We wouldn't be able to get the goal is the experience.
That's why.
like, Matt is, like, he needs to have that physical experience of being in the chair. That's, like, in my opinion, we, like, if we wanna make it extremely informational and impactful on him, we have to go for a chair.
Yeah, they're
Well,
gonna
I
be.
have a manual chair. I could bring mine and I can barely push it. So I would have to have him push it
Yeah.
and he would be able to see, wow, this sucks.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Alexa.
Has Clarendon ever, not my memory, but maybe somebody else knows, has Clarendon ever had their streets renovated since passage of the
I don't know.
I don't think so. I know
act?
they.
So, but I don't think so. So
No, they
the question
haven't.
is, what is the county's obligation? So I know their obligation, right? You, please correct. I know
I'm
their
not an
obligation is when
ADA
they
expert,
put in,
so.
when they put in curb ramps and it's just the space where the.
I'm not an
So if we
ADA
have
expert.
problems with the thoroughfare.
Yeah,
So
I don't know.
that's
I don't
getting to the policy.
Go ahead. Alexa, go ahead.
I think we should get clear, what do we want to have happen at each event? Because it seems like we keep saying, this is one event, this is another event, this is another event. But then it seems like, oh, we're gonna get a chair before the meeting and we're gonna
Yeah,
do this and
yeah.
we're gonna do that. So I
Yeah.
think we should, you know, just make a list and say, event A.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right.
I think
Event B.
Are you proposing that element or are you just saying, walk to the meeting with us beforehand? Because that seems a little bit easier, but if you don't
Well,
think it's gonna be a
I
really
wanna
value
say-
just.
I want to say one thing. We're focusing on the policy. Ignore the policy for now. This is the information experience. For this first event, wheelchair from Clarendon down to courthouse, experience point out the issues with this building. You know, we recap the information. And I'll send out a written version of this as well. And then during the recap, we identify the issues. Matt worked with staff to see what the policy tools we can use to fix that. We can also dig into the policy for ourselves, but for the main event, it's just for him to
Gain some information.
gain some information and see what the
If
experience
he's
is.
willing, then somebody else would have to, I mean, I rented the wheelchair, so I have to return it, but I would be willing to rent it if it was like, but I don't I mean, if you think it's worth expanding, Doris is saying,
Yeah.
well, expand it. And if you just walked with us, I would probably bring my scooter, which can get over bumps and cracks. So it wouldn't teach him anything.
I have two questions that
Yeah.
might be very, it might be very simplistic.
Okay.
We might already have answers to these. I think the first one, I was looking back, Courtney, over the past few emails here, and I just wasn't sure when Matt was going to be, what meeting that we're discussing Matt is going to be attending, if it's the next TAC meeting in August, or if we have to schedule him a couple months out. I wasn't sure if we had already put it.
Right, no, so I told his assistant Graham that I would talk to you guys before for scheduling. So at this point, they're waiting for me to get back to him. to
So
schedule.
the second associated question, which might seem really stupid, but I feel like it might be a question worth asking anyway. Depending on when we schedule Matt, if we would like to do the walk around or the roll around prior to the meeting we have him scheduled.
Prior to what?
Prior to the meeting we have scheduled for him to attend, so like if he's coming with us, from point A to point B.
Right,
to this meeting,
right.
What if we have inclement weather?
Well, I'm probably gonna say wear a coat. We live in Arlington, Virginia, but that does bring up a huge question.
Just reschedule.
We'll reschedule it.
I mean,
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, the fact of the matter is that people who experience this every day have to put up with the weather.
Right.
But
I think you need to commit some time. So I mean, I think we either need to commit to, and take some time. Or, like, because it might take longer than when I'm rushing in a commute to get
Right,
here,
Right, right.
And so I think we need to either be prepared to do that or do it on a Saturday or something, and that's just my thought about it. The other thing I say is that I honestly do have some concerns about this building here
Mhm.
and the money the county spent to do some things that I think made this an
And you want to leave enough time.
inaccessible building. One of them is when they did the lobby down there.
Huh.
They did the lobby down there. Is everybody aware that they changed the restrooms down there and made them all a cluster type restroom?
Well, Suzette was talking about that, yeah.
Yeah,
And one of the concerns that I have there is not only they're clusters, but they're non-gender, So, okay. So, but they had already spent money to make the two restrooms that were down there accessible. Right? And actually those two were the newest in the building.
So,
But so one of the consequences here too for blind people is they've changed the tactile signage. And they've done what JBG Smith always does now in its building. They did it here in 2300. They did it here where we are down in Crystal City is, they went and they painted all the walls white, put all the white fluorescent high intensities in and like that business out there. It shines down on the lobby and they've taken away all of the contrast in the environment. And then you go to use signage to find out where you're going to go to the restroom. And I think personally, I haven't measured it yet, but it seems to me higher than it should be. This is done wrong over here now. And there are no pictorials.
I'm gonna stop you just because right now Courtney is not in the room, so she's not taking notes, so nobody is taking notes. So,
Well, no, I was going to write it to you all, but
well, you
But I
might
haven't
not
had
have
time.
to, because as I said, I guess you met in May, maybe I was there too. And
And the lighting in
and
here
Courtney
makes it
took down
impossible to get around.
a list of some of the issues. But I wanted to go back to the issue at the table before we leave it. It seems like there's two proposals, not formal, I'm not making this formal. But one is that we leave the day that Matt comes for a tour or something of this building. And we could be prepared like a checklist of things and who's gonna present on what issue. You know, maybe we'll have Suzette come in about the restroom and Doris can come in about all the issues she wants to raise. And I can pick a topic and Alexa can pick a topic. But that would be leaving 2 hours like Courtney did on our agenda today, just for that. That's one idea. The other idea is we go with something very simple, like asking Matt to meet us at some place and walk down in an area, walk, not a wheelchair. And then another proposal is we do a quick and dirty wheelchair walk to the meeting and then have this happen. Or a fourth option is we have a separate day that's planned out for Matt to agree to use assistive technology and we plan out the day and what we're gonna ask Matt. So a wheelchair.
Wheelchair.
So in my mind, what I feel like I've heard the most is that we should keep things separate. That we should have the day, we're here to talk about building issues, have a good checklist, be very prepared, and then have a day where we talk about accessibility issues. But I don't want to, I mean, you guys did come up with a thought, and I don't want to nix your opportunity to assert why we can do both, the walk and, I mean, maybe I want you to have another chance to kind of persuade us all.
So,
But Elizabeth, didn't he approach us? In other words, what I'm asking is, didn't he approach us saying he had some concern?
so
Because if he did, then shouldn't we begin with a discussion of whether his concern offered to?
Well, not necessarily. We're
No, I
just
was just
talking
asking.
about, we're just talking about a simple modification that we would have to have him agree to in the first place. Does anyone want to speak to that or not?
Yeah, I think, I worry that we're biting off a little more issue in terms of logistically.
Okay, I agree with that.
I think
Uh,
essentially going where it sounds like, from what I'm hearing from Doris, and you know, taking into consideration what just as proposed here, it sounds like we definitely want to focus initially on the building's limitations. That's what Matt was coming for. That was the understanding. I think there's still a way for us to approach mobility limitations in that discussion. There's clearly a lot of mobility issues when it comes to this building. Doing a building tour and having Matt placed in situations where he's getting an understanding of what any number of us have faced when interacting with the building might be logistically better. You know, Elizabeth, you're not going to have to transport another wheelchair.
Right. I use my canes and show how hard it is to get to the elevator.
Exactly.
Before
And you're able to use.
As luck would have it, it would be the closest elevator.
Yeah, and I think it might simply be logistically easier for us in terms of like what we're able to accomplish in the realm of a couple of hours, as opposed to what we can do separately. at certain times.
like, could I add into that?
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Like, I think separately, I think the topic of this building's accessibility and Arlington accessibility is two separate things of itself. I think, yeah, I think we should be doing what Duncan says. But at the same time, I think off the record or at a later point or soon, or I think we should be pursuing a roll around in Arlington, doing what Bright says on doing a walk down from Clarendon down to here in a wheelchair. Basically to give Matt a feel of the environment of what Arlington is like for people with physical disability. So I think taking it one day at a time would be the best approach.
Are we in agreement about that?
Sounds like we are, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think it
And-
really
and,
is.
yeah. and then we could set aside a time at the next meeting to plan what we want to present about this building. And then at another meeting to plan what we want to accomplish with Matt doing a tour. I mean, with the exterior accessibility. Well, you weren't necessarily saying only exterior, but with the larger tour. Doris had proposed that it was maybe May, and then Brian had said May 6th was a certain day. I mean, if we wanted to do something huge, we could try that, or we could just stick with Matt.
I think we should,
We also did ours in October, or the end of September, but October, you know, the awareness month. So, and because those are good times when it's not too hot. And because it went right along with a news egg. Was the month of October.
yeah, I mean, October, I would like to do. My concern is planning and, also communication can be, since we have to like put everything for Courtney and.
Yeah.
I think May would be better for us from a planning standpoint.
My other concern is with making it larger like that, is that so many agencies are doing that now. I mean, I walk down the street and people say, oh, I went on a tour with a wheelchair through this agency and that agency. And they have the Walk Arlingtons, where the pedestrian committee is trying to incorporate those issues. So my worry is that it's repetitive unless we focus on just one member like Matt,
Yeah,
who will carry our torch and make something real out of it.
well, maybe it can be a collaborative effort.
Real quick, guys, I think on that, let's just do something small with Matt for the time being. Take it on one step at a time with Matt. If we feel like it may be ideal to pursue it with the entire county board, if Matt is proven successful at it, then let's pursue it with the entire county board. But let's take this nice and slow because we don't want to overwork ourselves at this. And we don't want to underwork ourselves.
That's one proposal, that doing it in May is another proposal. And there's a third option, Pam Hines, I think that's her name, the head of the pedestrian advisory committee, that just came to our meeting. Is that correct, Courtney?
I have to look at it, yeah, but I do remember.
And she was talking about Walk Arlington and how she wanted people to help her put information on the map of this is considered an easy walk tour, this is where somebody could stop, this is where somebody could, meet us halfway. And she was wanting help designing those tours. But I've also talked to her in the past about joining efforts with the pedestrian advisory committee. And so they might be interested, even if it was just for Matt and an original time or something and collaborating with us. I don't know if we want to do it, but I know she has reached out to me a couple times. I don't know if she's reached out to anyone else like at CMB or anything. You could stop it right now. I'm complicating things.
One of the things to think about, Matt, also, and I'm not saying when to discuss this, you mentioned housing, so September is housing month, and April is fair housing. So, there are any number of times.
What are you
Different-
proposing?
Different subtopics.
Of the three options, what were you proposing? Collaborating with a larger group, doing something major at a months away, or just working with Matt?
And the human rights law
I,
does enforce, or at least investigation.
I think we should table the May 6th event for this meeting and come back to it, next meeting.
Okay,
So we can all workshop it individually, and then come back next meeting with our ideas. I think today we should focus on our meeting with Matt and this building.
okay, so we decided, Courtney, we are just going to stick with asking Graham for a meeting with Matt. And we'll have a little bit of notice. We'll take the list you already started in your minutes of the issues we want to raise. And then we'll maybe even right now, we could sort of look at the list in the minutes and see and assign people to take each topic.
So I have those concerns in front of me right now.
Okay.
We have a series of 16 different issues that we
Oh.
identified. Over the course of the meetings, there's a few. But we also already have a number of preset recommendations to those. It appears that we've got 10 recommendations right off the bat that we can deliver to Matt. Say, well, these are some things we've identified. Here's some problems. Here's some solutions.
Okay, now let's imagine we were walking through the building with some of these. Like, I mean, do they fall naturally into like a pattern? Like, as we're walking through the building, Doris can talk about her issues on X. And when we get to this point, Alexa can talk about her issues on X.
Where are we getting walking through the building?
Isn't that part
I
of what we're doing?
think I understand.
Or,
I think I understand what you're saying, like whether we physically did it or whether we just sat here with Matt and discussed issues. I think from like entry to exit is a
Right.
good way to think about
Right.
articulating that, right? And it appears that we've got issues that range from how to get into the building. But when you're in the building and interacting with it, whether it's using the restroom or whether it's access to the elevators, because the timing is off, you can't make it up to the third floor without, difficulty.
May I simplify this real quick?
Yeah.
All right, we got two options. Option A, we do a walkthrough of the building of the issues. Option B, we just sit in this meeting room and go through the list.
Option C, we do a very short walkthrough where we point out some issues and then we come back to this room and establish.
Sounds like it's
I
planned.
think C is.
Yeah, I think C is a good
C is perfect.
Okay,
Mhm.
so let's say, let's start from the door.
Mhm.
Oh, no, let's start with the list you already have.
Yeah, so the list is kind of,
Well,
I think, yeah, well, it's long, but I think it's kind of like what occurred to us in the moment. This
Uh-huh,
was said, so like things are a little scattered.
So we can group them and
Yeah,
say, this person.
we can group these for sure. So like the first item on our list was that the ADA restrooms meet standards, however, not the standards for the VA, Veterans Administration.
I propose Suzette for that.
Well, the things,
Yeah.
the things that meet standard but are not maybe usable by some folks, maybe a majority of. Okay, wait, but is problematic in some way. We need to educate them that part of solving that problem has to do with changing the standards themselves and even more importantly, is changing the state building code.
Yeah.
And requirements there and the enforcement by the code official. Because right now, there are a number of issues that have come up. One in particular has to do with the installation of power doors. And what was, of our understanding, negotiated between this commission and Rosemary Ciotti, working from the planning commission and other citizens, was that all new commercial and residential buildings would have a standard and permanent site plan condition that they would, in new construction, they would install power doors.
Okay, Doris, do you want to be the person in charge of when we get back to the room saying,
Well, I'm not
Wait,
just saying,
wait,
I'm
let me
just
finish.
saying, we have to plan for ourselves. Because this is a planning session.
Mhm.
I'm saying we have to plan for ourselves what we're gonna say and how we're gonna address items, if we bring it to the attention of elected official, items that may meet the code.
I agree
But
with you.
but something is needed beyond because the powers that be in the county staff and others who are going around, making plans for renovations and things often are minimalist in doing it, and we have to explain why. Yes, it is part of the standards, and that's all you have to do. But you can go further. That's all I'm trying to say. We need to be an attitude.
Okay, and I agree with absolutely everything you said. And I think we discussed it before here. We are about what we need and not what the law necessarily requires. And then we're also about proposing suggestions. So Doris, if you would agree to say exactly what you just said on when we are at the meeting with Matt, that would be great. Will you agree to that? Okay. So could we, we'll put down names. Can you put down a name next to a topic? Justin?
Wait, Justin?
And,
I think what may be good.
Duncan. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
For Duncan to do would be to break up our 16
That's-
topics into categories
That's what I'm.
and then send an email out, and then each of us can claim.
I don't think that people will actually do it. And we have some time. So why not just get it done?
So what I'm doing right now is.
Okay.
So here's the other thing.
I'm just,
Wait,
Matt.
let Duncan finish first.
Matt
I'm just breaking these down.
distinctive interest in housing because he was the housing.
Okay, but we're only talking about this building right now. But we
I just
can,
wanted to mention.
yeah, and so that's important. And I think Justin was saying that before, we could have another day where we talk about housing, and we can have another day. Well, I think several people said that. So, but one of the topics that wouldn't necessarily be on the list, which I think is so important, is this issue of, we are not talking about what's the law or not the law. We're talking about what we need as justice in the world to live like everybody else can. And what Doris said so much more eloquently. So we need to, what would you call that topic? So we can put that down on our list, Doris. We want to call it disability justice. Oh, sorry, Doris, it's your turn. I'm sorry, I said, I sort of shushed you while we were talking to Duncan. Did you wanted to say about housing? I was wondering, is there a way you would want to label the topic that you're going to agree to talk about with Matt? The issue of the law versus what is necessary and what we want to push for?
Yeah,
What would you label that?
what are you asking? I'm sorry,
I guess
I'm
it
not
doesn't
clear,
matter.
there's something that I'm not answering for you, I'm not clear about it. There is an echo in this room.
Oh.
It has to do with the way the system's working. Doesn't work the same as well, so we need to check that as it does in room 216.
Which is exactly one of the points you wanted to make to Matt, so, I was just, we were gonna kind of do a list of who was gonna say what. And I was gonna say, if you talk on that topic and we put your name down, what would you, I think I'm getting too specific. I think we should do
Yeah,
what
I
Brian
think-
suggested.
I think we should wait until the list is done.
Okay,
We should give people.
Give it a minute.
I mean, we don't even have something going right now. We need, I think whatever meeting we have, I think we need to go through with the meeting with him and find out what he is thinking are the issues and why he wanted to come talk to us about it.
He wanted to come talk to us.
So that
to
we
figure
can
out what the
address
issues were,
it, right?
correct?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's good.
That's what I've been trying.
From what I understand, and Courtney, correct me if I'm wrong, the original communication to the commission was for Matt to meet with us to discuss the issues of this building, correct?
That was my understanding. I think
Mhm.
Elizabeth, he had reached out and saying that he wanted to come to DAC.
Yes, because Suzette
Yeah.
alerted us of the issue because she attended the grand opening after the renovation.
right,
And then we sent the communication. Matt agreed to come and listen to us. I don't think let me rephrase that. He may have a list already prepared from his observations since he's in this building probably on a daily basis. But I think his primary goal is to listen to us to make sure he is fully encapsulating the issues of this building. So this is more of us talking to him and less of him talking to us.
that was my impression.
Yeah.
So what do you think about that, Doris? With that in mind, do you mind if, before he comes, we make a list of the issues?
I have no problem with making.
Okay, good, because we already have one that Duncan is working on and it's going to send to us. And I guess we'll take Brian's suggestion of just sending out the list and people can identify what topics that they want. I was only trying to say to Duncan before, when you send out the list, could you try to articulate what Doris said and add it to the list? Do you think it's possible?
Mhm.
Okay. Okay, so can we go on to, has anybody gone to any meetings that they want to report back about? Am I jumping the gun to go to that, Courtney?
No, actually, I forgot to put in the subcommittees.
Yeah, I have no liaison report.
Liaison.
It's easy.
Yeah, I could say from the joint task force for that checklist that the Aging Commission.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so we have a meeting August 7th with members of the Aging Commission to go over the list. Courtney did send out an email with some questions, some guided questions for members of this commission to respond to. So I'm collecting that information. Courtney, if it's possible to send a reminder tomorrow of that same email. It's two questions that are specific and one that's open-ended. And just reply to those questions. That would help me, collect the data and synthesize it. So when I am at that August 7th meeting, I know what to present.
Right.
In
And I
addition-
might go to the meeting with you, but I'm fully happy for you to be the lead on it and me to just listen.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
More than happy to tag along.
Yes, as soon as they get the invite set up, I'll send that to Courtney to send to everyone. It is going to be August 7th at 11 a.m. That's what's worked for, the main representatives. But yeah, if, everyone could just read the email that Courtney will send out tomorrow, regarding those 3 questions. Of course,
She had sent out one saying the deadline was July 21st or something like that, or did we already miss the deadline? I thought we already missed the deadline, hopefully not.
I think the deadline is the August 7th one. I'll have to check with, the aging commission on that. But, you know, I'm assuming it's a very fluid deadline and they wouldn't mind if we came with additional information. I am doing an analysis of similar lists from, jurisdictions that have a similar profile to Arlington. Just so we're benchmarking that and, but of course, we can put our Arlington spin on it and hopefully we can do that with the 3 questions that'll be coming out tomorrow.
Excellent, excellent. I really appreciate your work on that.
And then, I know I'm on the SPRC for the EHC Behavioral Health Center, down on, Harlan Springs Road. I think it's still, in like the planning phase, in terms of they haven't presented it to the planning commission yet. But as soon as I get an update, I do know they are using, the 4.1 administrative procedure.
Could you be willing to explain a little bit more, for those of us, who haven't been reading all the emails, why they invited us?
So I invited myself, you know, as someone with a neurodivergent disability and the comorbidities that come with that, I wanted to make sure that perspective was included in this project, particularly in the community benefits. But yeah, this facility would expand the number of beds that we have within our behavioral health system here in Northern Virginia.
Yeah, okay, I heard it.
Yeah.
They've been working on, and it's even gotten some press too.
Yes.
Yeah.
It would, if I, you know, I might not be quoting this correctly, but I think from what I understood with the director of the executive director of the Community Services Board, it would be adding, it would be doubling the amount of youth beds,
Right.
in the entire Commonwealth, by this project alone. So it's a great opportunity, especially those with, neurodivergent, cognitive, intellectual and developmental, disabilities. This will be a huge benefit to, people within that community.
Great.
All I have for me.
Okay, I do have a question, Alexa. But last we talked about the STAR issue. They said that they had tabled it, which we were.
Yes, and
Suspicious just meant they were gonna.
Yeah,
put it aside and hope that
I
nobody asked.
continue to be suspicious. I continue to not be getting information. This month, they just let the subcommittee know that they want us going on a bus tour instead of having our usual meeting. So what exactly that means, I don't know. It sounds to me like whoever the gentleman is that's in charge of restructuring everything or whatever is exactly going on is trying to buy time, but that is my guess.
Right. Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
would agree.
it certainly seems to me that they realized that the community was angry. But whether that means that they're trying to find a way to proceed in a way that makes the community less angry, or whether they're trying to find a way to proceed in a way that's where they can still do what they want and people are yelling less, I don't know yet. Because, you know, the last meeting they had, they basically said, you know, we're committed to working with the community, but they gave no real meat of what that means.
Right.
You know, they said, you know, we're looking at everything with an open mind. It's like, okay, didn't you have an open mind months and months ago? Does that mean you've thrown away everything that William Jones and them did and you're doing something completely different? Or does it mean, you know, who ordered the change? What is the change? You know,
Right.
I don't know. I mean, I do think it's encouraging that they did say that they were aware that the community was very upset about this. Again,
Has Star already moved to the policy about the pickups?
it doesn't seem like they are taking any action. Again, what that means they've got in the works, I really don't know. Really, they're really being, you know, we don't have anything to share with you at the Star about it.
Well, thanks
So,
for
I
being.
mean, hopefully that means, oh crap, we screwed up, we have to do something completely different. But I can't say that I swear that's what it looks like to me, because, you know, these are all new people and I don't know, I don't have this guy, I think his name is Quentin, I don't quite remember off the top of my head, but, you know, I just met him, so.
Right.
You know, he seemed nice, but I don't really have, you know, oh, this person has a long record of being an ally to the disability community locally when, you know, and championed, you know, unpopular policy, you know what I mean? I don't.
Right. Right.
Since I've never met him, I can't say I know, you know.
Well, thanks for presenting us. And Brian, did you have a question, comment?
Yeah, I was just gonna see, like, would it be possible for us to just have Courtney reach out to, DTS staff and just be like, hey, what's going on? Like, you know, it's been a while since we've heard an update about Star, because they just hired the replacement of the person who was overseeing that plan. So maybe just like,
Quinton or the person that.
Yeah, I
Right.
think his name is Quentin something,
Yeah.
yeah.
Right.
it was like, if it's possible, like, just send us like, hey, you know, we wanna know what's going on, like, it's possible to give us an update or at least a timeline, like, is this something that he is planning on taking care of after, because I know they're doing this huge, study on the bus system, so is this something that's phase 2 after they take care of the bus system,
Right.
reroutes?
So, definitely, Alexa, and you seem like you basically, I mean, Courtney,
Yeah,
might as
I
well
think
fix-
I think it would be good to reach out to them. I think I mean, obviously, I'm not saying this to hide or anything, but if the message comes from someone who is not me, he might be more receptive to answering. Because if it looks like it comes from me, well, I already told you I have nothing to say. You know, so if it comes from the DAC
Yeah.
and he has to look up who that is to realize that I'm one of the people there, that might be better.
Yeah, I think it coming from on behalf of the commission rather than an individual member may
Yeah.
help us with that issue, but I guess my specific, was that helpful enough, Courtney, or do you need something specific?
No, that's helpful. I'm actually scheduled to meet with somebody from Star, from that group, this week,
From the county side or the?
from the county.
Okay.
Excellent, excellent.
Excellent. Yeah, I just want to make sure that we're, you know, up to date on what's going on.
And Justin, I know you wrote a letter about the need for accessible changing tables and maybe other things that you've worked on. Would you mind to talk about that? We're meeting with Matt coming up. Maybe you mentioned.
Yeah, so currently next week, Thursday at 1300. Elizabeth, are you tagging along with us for the meeting?
I said I would. So yeah, I mean, I need to learn about the issue as well.
So for me, I have incontinence. And just to put it I don't have any control when I need to go to the bathroom. I started because of that disability, I have to wear a brief or an adult diaper. Because I'm physically disabled, there's not many places for me to take care of that need. So I started the Changing Space campaign in Virginia/Washington DC to help advocate for people with disabilities, advocate for high adjustable adult changing stations for older children and adults with disabilities. The goal is to talk to Matt on the matter, to get him to inform him about the matter and to talk to him about the possibility of getting adult changing stations into every Arlington County facility in Arlington, to help make Arlington more accessible to all disabilities. That's the primary goal of Thursday, is to inform and to talk about possibilities of getting getting high adjustable adult changing stations.
Great, and did you want to mention, or I could mention, but we met with Patrick Hope, not as part of the DAC. Maybe I shouldn't mention. Never mind.
Well, let's keep that between the two of us, Elizabeth. But on that, yeah, the current goal is to get as many adult changing stations out as many as possible. So we can make sure that people with all types of disabilities can have access to Arlington.
Okay.
But
And Doris, I know that Rosemary sent an email about the issue where you were just talking about earlier, about how the accessible doors were in some plan and now they've been removed. You were just talking about Rosemary and the issue that you and she raised.
Okay, the planning commission oversees the process of development of commercial and residential buildings. And so when Rosemary was on the planning commission, I think she was chair of the planning commission. She was able, with the help of this commission as well, to get a standard permanent site plan condition. There's requirement that all developers had to meet in their site plans, at least the ones that are outside of being by right of the owner. So if they were in the site plan process, they would have to have, they were constructing new commercial buildings, which are required to meet the ADA, of course. So, and all multifamily residential, you're required to have power doors. And this was definitely before the pandemic, so we're talking 4 or 5 years. And we understood it to be one of these permanent site plan conditions. And therefore the developers are required to do that, provide power doors in their new construction. And also accessible security systems. And they had to be at the main entrance and they had to be at the main garage entrances. And now come to find out, because I went to a training that was had last month for new planning commission members on how to run a site plan, what the site plan review committee.
Okay.
So, and Matt Pfeiffer was leading it and explaining what the standard site plan conditions were, and didn't bring up this power door convention. So, so I inquired, and Matt came to tell me that, and an email to Rosemary, that in consultation with code enforcement official, they decided that they would remove power doors as a standard convention under site plans, and would only do it if the developer agreed to do it.
Wow, did they notify the planning commission before making this decision?
Well, I don't know whether it ever went before the planning commission, because I have never had time to get to all of their meetings. So, I mean, the site plan commission, the planning commission as a whole. I go to, when you go to a site plan review committee, you have a lot of input, and that's where the citizen input is. But in the end, they get recommendations from the site plan review committees, and then is planning commission that actually recommends to the county board, you should do this or you should do that on this site plan application. So, so we had gone through meetings with the county board, because originally when the planning commission agreed to add this power door addition, the county staff was against implementing it, even the county attorney. And so we went to meet with county board members, and in doing that, I did some research, and I found out that at least the person that I talked to on the technical information line down at DOJ said, in the case of ADA covered buildings, that if they don't necessarily have to have a power door, but if the doors are these heavy glass doors that all of the apartments and the exterior doors that they're building now, particularly they use a lot of glass in
Right.
building here, that I asked, well, what if a person has a physical disability and can't, open that door?
Right.
And so what they said was, what the person at the disability rights section said to me was, well, they would have to provide a way so that person with a disability can contact somebody and come open the door. And that's what I took into the meeting with the county board and Rosemary and others in the disability community and the county attorney and the county board chair. And so as a result of that, it took them some months, but they agreed to implement that permanent site plan condition. And so to find out that now they're considering it optional and only with agreement from the owner, developer, landlord, and also that if it's not on that list of permanent conventions, that, that somebody at that site plan or on the planning commission is gonna have to ask, are you doing this?
Yeah. Which
And,
they weren't
and we
trained
got
to.
back, so once we found out about that, we made an inquiry of Matt, and Matt took it. They met apparently with the code enforcement official that said they didn't have to do it. And then he came back with another email today. We are going to put the site plan convention back into the list of the site plan conditions that people in the planning commission know about, but they still have to get the agreement of the developer landlord to implement it, which is not what we thought was the agreement. So
So
that's where we are as of today, except that both she and I, both Rosemary and I, wrote to wrote back to Matt and said, you know, we need more clarification on this because we had that meeting with county board and the county attorney, and they agreed to implement it as a permanent site plan condition. So that's where we are.
And
So that
that
means,
sounds very interesting because we also weighed in, according to you. So it might become something where maybe we would want to also say we echo the concerns raised by Rosemary and you. I mean, I'll wait to take your cue, but I think that.
honest to God, yes.
Yes,
Yeah, I'm wondering, the county attorney came in and said, had concerns about the reasonable accommodation of the ADA. And that the developer could argue that adding that extra expense is not, you know,
an undue burden to
yeah,
put in a push button door.
it's a crazy, crazy world.
Yeah. Well, I think that since we, according to Doris, we weighed in when the planning commission was putting it in, we might want to, so Doris,
Well, we have to see where this goes now.
Right.
I think, we have to see where it goes now that we've gone back to Matt and said, you know, there's an issue here because we were told we were going to go ahead based
Right.
on the information. And because, you know, Matt is the senior staff of the planning commission, but the question now is where we should go with this in terms of making it questions to the county board, which would be what
Would you put that
our
on,
purview is.
on the agenda as maybe a standing item for Doris to report on, so I remember to bring it up?
Yeah, and I will say the project that we're working on with the aging commission, I think the product of that joint task force, or what ad hoc committee or whatever the technical term is, that document can be helpful for us.
That
Oh,
would be helpful.
yeah.
Yeah.
Is that document also?
Well,
gonna be
let
proposed
me
to the
say what
planning
the
Wait,
steps around.
let me follow up with, is that document also planned to go before the planning commission, or they're totally two totally separate things?
I would have to check. From my understanding, this checklist would be for the planning commission when they're doing the SP, the site plan review committees.
Oh,
Because it's not, because as Doris mentioned, some of the aspects of this check sheet were previously in the standards, but the county has removed them, so
Ah.
planning commission members don't have that resource document. So we would be creating that resource document for them, so they can ask the questions during the SPRCs.
how interesting. Did you get that, Doris? That the aging committee
Mhm.
also had things that were put in originally by the planning commission they were taken out. And now the Aging Commission is creating a document where they can at least say to the people, this is not formally in the planning commission recommendations, but you should know about it.
Yeah, so it's the standard, the document that Doris is talking about. It's like the 72-page document with like a bunch of standard site plan options that, and I'm not an expert in planning commissions, but from my basic understanding, this is sort of, what developers have to meet. And so this optional one would just be part of the negotiations in the SPRC.
Interesting.
So I don't know what you're suggesting.
I'm not making a suggestion, but I cut you off before. You wanted to say something else. Okay, did you want to say anything else about
Well,
that?
I want to find out, I think we need to find out whether there's going to be some discussion about this further or what, I would like to know what's going to happen because, Rosemary started this. And I might add that one of the things that she brought to the county's attention is another issue over involved in that the county, the whole thing has to do with the code anyway. That there's a new Silver Diner over there.
Uh-huh.
And apparently this is by her observation. That they got through the code enforcement officials, inspection, giving them an occupancy permit for that Silver Diner, but it has a service counter for takeout
Uh-huh.
that is higher than.
Interesting. Patrick Hope said that's one of his favorite places and he goes there for breakfast all the time.
He had breakfast with the two, with
Yeah.
Elizabeth.
Hey, maybe I'll text him and find out what to do, if he knew that.
Ooh. Wait, let me text him,
Oh, you text him. Okay, well, are there any other, Doris, what I told Courtney is to put that as an area for you to report on at future meetings.
I didn't go to the housing commission this past month only because of a problematic mistake. I thought it was a hybrid meeting and I came here in person and then I didn't remember what I had read, that it was all virtual.
Oh, no.
And then,
Poor thing.
yeah, and then as far as Wamata, you should know that right now Wamata is in the process starting July 1 of changing the fares for Metro Access. They are now capped every trip on Metro Access at $4 rather than $6.50. And they're starting a number of new programs for low income people, whether they have disabilities or not, fighting for free rides on Metro. Get a card that's rigged for free. Well, I take that back, it's not free. It's for reduced fares, the same reduced fares that are provided to people with disabilities and anyone over the age of 65 will apply to anybody who's on SNAP. So getting the word out about that.
Okay.
We don't have a listserv newsletter.
We do, and we don't. I think they do have the Arlington, I forget what it's, I get one every day. It's the Arlington Digest. And I know that Bryna has put in articles, for example, about the ADA anniversary and things like that.
I never get that.
I forgot how I got it.
I got Inside Arlington.
So this is put out by the county. Do you know what I'm talking about, Courtney? the thing that I get every single day that tells me reports about Arlington.
Isn't that Arlington Inside? Gov delivery?
Let's see. Let me look for it.
But that, is that a disability?
Oh, no. Oh, no. It would
Yeah,
just
okay.
be an
So it's
area
not-
where we could
okay.
say, like I've seen them talk about the Marcus Alert, event and other things. Let's see.
Now you're able to subscribe to subgroups. They have like one for housing, like I'll send one sometimes when there's type A units available and it only goes to those who subscribe to the type A topic.
Okay, this says, Arlington County, let's see, Arlington County, this one's about COVID. Arlington counties, I guess these are all about COVID. Arlington County government something, government daily digest bulletin. You get that?
The only reason I mentioned that is that we used to have. this.
Oh, a listserv, which is totally different from advertising things.
So, but the other thing I think I should mention to the commission so that you know it is that, that region-wide and statewide, an issue has been brought up by the deaf hearing community as well as blind community and people with speech communication disabilities is the lack of effective communication under the ADA in healthcare facilities, hospitals, doctor's offices, nursing homes, and by home health agents. Whether they're, doing Medicaid work. And so the U.S. Attorney's Office in June had a virtual training for the healthcare industry in Virginia, and it's a big issue, and we at some point might want to be looking into what's going on with it here, particularly if they're publicly funded.
Sure, and I know that on a national level, HHS OCR, Office of Civil Rights within HHS.
Apparently, they should provide ASL interpreters.
Yep.
And the
Yeah.
citizen of the county, but actually, at least two citizens of this county brought up to me, they were in the hospital and no card was provided,
Yeah,
and they were at a nursing home and no.
okay, well, that's a good issue to be following. Thank you. Brian,
Motion to end our meeting?
I was just gonna do that. Since nothing else, all the reports are done. Motion to end the meeting. I'm sorry, we are a minute late.
Yeah. We need a second.
Second. And, okay, Carrie.
Yep. All right.
I'm sorry, we usually don't get to the reports. That's why I felt like we had to do.
No problem.